What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Ruan of No Spill Blood. Thank you for being here. It is great to have you here.
Great to talk to you.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here. We got a lot of cool things happening, including the release of the new album, Eye of Night. Was the intention to just kind of like pick up where you left off after Heavy Electricity, or was this meant to sort of like signify a new beginning for No Spill Blood?
It's definitely a kind of a, how do you say, refinement of what we were doing. We definitely made some changes in how we approached the composition and the recording of the tunes. But yeah, I guess us being us, it's kind of it's going to be a continuation anyway, I guess.
Mhm. Was there sort of like a preconceived vision of what you wanted this album to sound like, or was this like a very improvisational and sort of like experimental process?
Bit of both. We had some definitely points we wanted to hit. And there's a few different types of songs we wanted to have. We wanted to have a kind of variety on the records. We didn't want to have it too punishing in terms of repetition and stuff. So we had a kind of a template of a loose structure of what we wanted to do. We definitely wanted it to flow like a as a listening experience, and not just be song all the way through. So that gave way to some more experimentation and more and freaky kind of stuff that we could throw at it as well. So we all had to. I guess one mistake we made last time as well was that we made the record a little bit too long for a vinyl release. So we had to trim a lot of stuff for it. In the end, like even like seconds here and there, whatever, like that, all over the whole thing, to try and get it to fit. So I think that we started this time, having learned from that, we started with I think it's 22 minutes per side, for a record to fill it up properly without going over and having to chop stuff.
Mhm. For people who haven't maybe heard the album yet, do you think that maybe like the singles that we heard so far, one example being the title track "Eye of Night," is a good representation of what this whole record will sound like, or is there a lot more to be discovered and a lot more new tricks and twists?
Yeah, I think that the two singles that have been released are both fairly hectic, kind of fast, kind of like trashy or black metal kind of influenced tunes. They're not really the standard across the record. There's a lot of other stuff going on there. I think that maybe isn't kind of indicated in those two songs. There's some expansive kind of like synthesizer Odyssey ones. There's a lot of drone. There's a lot of more rhythmic and groovy kind of stuff that is not like straight to the head down, gunning for the the fast track kind of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot more to discover there, I think, than just those two songs.
Yeah. Well, I felt like when you look at the whole album, such as "Eye of Night" or "Anvil Crawler," but then you look at albums such as a song such as "Tomb" or a "Cradle Scythe" and so on. It seems like that there's a lot of different emotions and a lot of different vibes that flow through No Spill Blood in a way. Is every song representative of a specific emotion that you were all feeling at that particular time, or was this sort of like an escapism in a way?
Yeah, like, so that's a good point. Like the the overall record, it's kind of like there is a kind of a narrative to it, and it is like kind of a journey and a story, for protagonists. And so that's why the songs kind of differ a lot, because it's all about different situations and different uh things you're being exposed to, I guess. So uh how Matt, our vocalist and bass player, how he kind of constructs he sits down first of all and kind of writes a kind of an essay, basically, or a story, and then we kind of like basically shape a record around it, and take these elements of the story and kind of build songs around them, and so that kind of helps us kind of like shape the record and shape the flow, and you know it gives it a cinematic kind of quality as well, I guess.
Yeah, I wanted to ask in a way, was this sort of like a concept album in a way? It has that sort of vibe or that sort of sound in a way. Like you always have to start
Yeah,
off
yeah,
with the same song and end with
yeah.
the
They're
same
like that.
song.
Yeah, there is definitely that concept element. Again, because it's a narrative. There's an overall theme to the whole thing. There's like like obviously it's all founded in the horror genre. It's founded in like science fiction and horror literature and movies. But like the tale about the protagonist, it's more of an inward journey. It's more of like all these different hellish landscapes and hellish scenarios, but it's all under self reflection and inward looking. And that's what the Eye of Night kind of comes into it as well. It's like this is like the void within, I suppose, as opposed to kind of like the Lovecraftian typical scenarios.
Did you all think of this concept or this idea or this narrative before you started writing the music, or did this idea sort of come as you were writing more and more for this album?
Yeah, it kind of came into play more like we knocked out a couple of songs first of all, and that they kind of set the template, and then the overall thing was the overall essay was written, and the kind of the how you say the theme for the whole thing was then put into place, and then that helped shape the whole rest of the record. But there was one or two there before to kind of set the tone, I guess, if you get me.
Yeah. Did you want this to be open to interpretation, this concept, or are you trying to engage the listener into the subject matter and the meaning as much as the music itself?
Yeah, like yeah, there's definitely a bit of that. Like obviously because it's kind of oblique in in how it's delivered, I guess. Like we didn't want to be too on the point, too on the nose with how we were delivering the message. We wanted to kind of basically diffuse through the music of the lyrics. Obviously, Matt isn't always intelligible in what he's saying and what he's singing and stuff, but like it's a vibe, I guess, and like that's like that story and that kind of element at its core. But like we wanted the listener to kind of basically interpret it themselves as well.
Mm. Do you think that I've always asked, could a listener's interpretation? Do you believe that that could add like more context to the album and add like another layer of meaning to it?
Yeah, I like it. Like as a listener, that's what I do all the time. I shape things to my own meaning, like all the time when I'm listening to records and what I take from them and stuff. So like yeah, like there is value to that. I think I'm not always too keen when things are always again like spelled out the whole time and you know like spoon fed to the listener a bit like so. Yeah, I think that it's good to give people a bit of a runway to have their own experience.
Yeah. And do you like, because I've always thought that No Spill Blood's music, especially with this album, not only is there different vibes, but there's a lot of different sounds. You mentioned that there's some more groove oriented stuff. There's some like post metal aspects to it. It almost seems like it goes along many different periodic table of subgenres, as I like to say. Is that indicative of like maybe all the members of No Spill Blood having different inspirations?
Yeah, and like we all generally have like we have a very broad taste in music and like I guess like we all kind of enjoy the same stuff, but like I guess Matt would be more in a noise rock kind of background. Roar kind of comes from more punk and metal, I guess. And I'd be kind of based maybe more kind of like in the progressive rock and experimental electronic music and krautrock and stuff like that. So basically that like it that kind of uh, shows how we have the different kind of types of songs the whole time. I think as well, like I always say that because of our particular setup with like we have bass and synth, it's kind of different to a lot of other bands. It also is composing like that is quite going to be tough as well. Like without repeating yourself the whole time or doing like similar sounding songs a lot. Like so, we do make a pointed effort to try and kind of like to broaden the palette as well, and to do different kind of like we kind of force ourselves to kind of do or we're going to do one with like little or no drums, and we're going to do one with like that has like that's a super heavier track, and like we kind of have these kind of like ideas that we want to explore and achieve, I guess, is the challenge, I guess, and that's the kind of fun part when those things click.
Yeah. Well, you know, like you mentioned, like having just bass and synth. Some people can interpret that as maybe being limited, but do you maybe find that it could also be somewhat liberating in a way? You're not confined to just the guitar solo or the riff or anything like that. There's
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like yeah, it definitely, like, of course, it gives you more opportunity to explore different, like going to a Tangerine Dream part of a song. It's completely, and all these kind of like atmospherics and pads and melody as well. Like But like when it comes to the nuts and bolts of it, though, we're kind of composing on two monophonic instruments, I guess. So it'd be like I play a Pro One synthesizer, and Matt has the bass. So they're basically two one note, two monophonic things. Like so, like there's no chords there, especially in the start. So like that is limiting, like in a kind of good way, but like it does make you think about what you're doing carefully.
yeah. Well, being on the synths in a way, like I'd imagine that there's plenty of effects you could use that also sort of like adds to the experimental elements, right? It's not like you're confined to one effect.
Oh no, 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 not at all. And especially when you're kind of going off book, like if we're not doing the straight up rockers, like that's where I really come into play, and that's what I love, especially in the studio. Jesus, you can spend all day doing weird stuff, and that's kind of one of the best parts. My favorite part about being in the band is that it kind of has this kind of this element.
Yeah. Well, with the are you more focused on the effects with the synthesizer in a way, or are you focused also on like a specific chord progression as well?
It's more like patches and stuff, I guess, on the Pro One, right? So the Pro One is a double oscillator monophonic synth, right? And I've had that about 11 or 12 years, and I'm still learning stuff about it the whole time. And it's kind of specific in how the sound you can get out of it. It can get very, very harsh and kind of like screechy, and I'm still learning how to play it like in new ways. So like it's kind of like the main sound of the band will be coming from that synth.
Mm.
Um, uh, so like effects, like yeah, we don't go through many pedals. I have a phaser on the polyphonic one really, and maybe a bit of delay. I have a space echo and that kind of stuff. But like we would explore more pedals and stuff with effects pedals with the bass, and different distortions and octaves and delays and stuff there as well. So there's a bit of both.
Yeah, it seems like having both the bass and the drummer, they're all focused on the rhythm, so all the melody and all the atmosphere is just all thrown onto your lap. It seems like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The leads and stuff like that, and yeah, like yeah, because I play playing live. I play like two synths, right? I have the mono one and a polyphonic one. So and it's about writing parts that I can play, with two hands. You know what I mean? And that like and that if one thing drops out, then the whole sound of the band doesn't go away and all that kind of stuff. You want to go off the lead and stuff. So yeah, it's but yeah, it does, because like it's the kind of thing where I could be doing the main riff on a synth, and then bringing like a chord on, or a progression on the polyphonic synth that goes against it, and kind of begins to make things interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'd imagine too when you have like your stage setup. Do a lot of people assume if you tell people we have bass, synths, and drums? Do a lot of people assume you guys are like a straight industrial band?
Yeah, like a lot of people go for that. We get a lot of Killing Joke thrown at us, and Skinny Puppy and stuff as well. Yeah, but I guess we're not really, I don't know, like we're not really for the industrial audience either. So like there's a lot more going on there. It's more melodic, and it's more tuneful stuff than a lot of that crack. So yeah, like yeah, it's not one thing or another, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and then people see that you play with bands like Russian Circles or Boris or Death Heaven, and then they get the whole different vibe from that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like there is that post metal, contemporary uh, stuff like for the Circles of Death, Heaven and Paris. Obviously, yeah, we lean into that stuff the whole time, and we're a good match for those kind of bands because we don't maybe sound like them, but there's a similar spirit there, I guess. Or uh, but even though we kind of don't really fit into those kind of brackets either, a lot of the time.
Well, I've always wanted to ask this because out of all the subgenres that we talk about on the show, I don't. What does post metal mean? Because I've heard post death metal, post black metal, post metalcore, post hardcore, post this. What the hell does that word post mean?
But yeah, I know. I hate it as well. I always have. I hated the term post rock since I was a kid. But I guess what it does mean is that like it's like a, a, a further development in the particular genre, right? Or something that's more experimental and reaches beyond the traditional tropes. Okay. Now everybody would probably describe themselves that way, if they had the choice. Well, I think that's generally what it means. But that's how I would define it anyway. So like, but obviously when one of those things is done and done again and done again, it's not experimental anymore. It's sitting within a realm of its own genre, So it's kind of a defunct term then, right? Because it's not post anything; it's current.
I know
So
exactly. Exactly. I hear the word post, and I think it's more of a definition of around time that it comes out rather than the actual sound itself.
it's just supposed to be experimental, I guess. It's a less good term to describe it. Experimentation and kind of and broadening. But yeah, that was like back in the 90s. Like when you had like bands like Slint and Tortoise and stuff like that, and then they took that kind of their attitude to like Slint, right? For instance, like, oh, that's post rock, right? Because it's a deconstruction of traditional rock structures and blah 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 and minimalism and the whole lot. And this is the new way. But then quickly that was an old way, and quickly that so this is an archaic term being used to describe something that's supposed to be prescient or futuristic. So it doesn't work.
Yeah, I just love it. People play something, they add a little thing that makes them different, and then they just call it post whatever genre they come from.
Yeah,
Yep. And then you look up that genre on Wikipedia, and there's like two or three bands describing the whole genre. So,
yeah, yeah,
yep. And the
yeah.
final,
That's it. It doesn't really work, but
yeah. And the final question I wanted to ask you is pertaining to the No Spill Blood live presence because I've always thought that your music is very atmospheric, and when I listened to the Eye of Night, like it really does once again envelop you into a sort of atmosphere. But when you're bringing the synths and the bass and the drums to a concert venue, every concert venue has like its own, little atmosphere in itself. So, do you almost feel like you adjust to the atmosphere of the venue, or do you almost try to make the audience forget that they're in a concert venue to begin with?
good question. Yeah, like so we just finished like a 16-day tour of Europe there, and where we play a different room every night. And like first and foremost, we are quite loud. We are a loud band. It's quite forceful, when we play, and especially if we're playing the more fast numbers. So, but then we have that kind of like psychedelic, kind of like krautrock and uh, you know, film score kind of element to it as well. We generally try to where possible, we employ visuals um, as well if the room has a good screen and stuff like that, and it always works way better when there's that going on. We played a venue was in Dortmund. I think they had a massive LED screen behind us, like, and it was just like, this is like an amazing uh, show to put on because like it's a wall of light, behind us, and it makes it a bit more trippy, I guess, and so, but essentially, it's three of us. There's no like backing tracks. There's no MIDI sync. There's no click. There's nothing like that. It's three lads going 1, 2, 3, 4 and into the track. So like it is fairly hectic and fairly ramshackle. A lot can go wrong as well, but it's live. That's what it's supposed to be.
And I love that too. I love it when bands like incorporate visuals into their show, like Porcupine Tree. I saw them last year when they did that. They just completely. They were at Radio City, and I forgot where I was. So
yeah. Like yeah, that's I always love it when people do that, as well. So yeah, why not?
yeah, definitely. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Just with the release of the Eye of Night, is there just anything else with No Spill Blood that you would like to promote in terms of tours or what else we could be expecting for the near future?
Yeah, just we have a gig coming up in Dublin to launch the record on the 23rd of March in Whelan's. And after that, we're going to look towards the autumn, I guess, for booking more shows, and we're going to start work straight away on a new record. Obviously, since there was a big lapse in time between the last two records, we're very keen to kind of keep pushing forward. So that'll be the next thing is writing tunes, stockpile material, putting a record together, and do it again.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing more. But thank you so much, everybody. No Spill Blood. Be sure to check out the Eye of Night. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.